All right, announcements part 2. This one I wanted to keep in its own separate video so I can actually link it to the website, kind of explaining what a pop-up is. We've got all sorts of lingo in the intensive world, and definitely worth some explanation. So a pop-up is when essentially families get together and they say, hey, you know what? We don't want to drive to Phoenix. We want you to come to us. Here's the catch. We can transport, of course, a certain amount of our equipment, right? Denise can load up boxes, levity, depending on the nature of the goals and the clients that we're working with. She's loading it up, with the exception of the spider cage. I mean, we can travel with it technically, but there is essentially a host family, or it could be a host clinic, and Denise goes to you. So minimum requirements, of course, is there needs to be a discussion around what equipment, what needs, all those things. Depending on the distance, there could be travel reimbursement in play. But specifically for this week, we've got some fun friends that live on the west side. Those families got together and said, hey, let's do a little mini intensive on our fall break. And Denise is going to come to those families. So all of the families, I think 4, none of them have to drive for the week, minus going to the one centrally located house on the west side. And that essentially, very simply put, that's a pop-up. So it does not have to be in our clinic. We will travel with the equipment that we can. And it's a very, very, it's a very attractive way to squeeze in a little intensive, especially on a quick school break. But you can also ask us about pop-ups, and now is a really good time because we haven't built the second half of our 2025 schedule. So if this is something that you're interested in doing, you definitely know that you're going to have some time. We've got some families that really don't like missing school. And then of course we've got some families that are like, we homeschool, we can come whenever. So this works really well for either or, but this is, if you have those dates in mind, and especially, you can always ask us if we know other families. We're happy to reach out on your behalf, but essentially we just need a minimum head count to make it make sense for Denise to essentially shut down a Phoenix location to travel and only have her schedule open to a very specific demographic. So minimum of 3 participants, so that's 2 hours each. And then of course we'll schedule and we'll figure things out as needed. But there's a little bit more back and forth with the pop-up, just making sure we've got everything in place. System-wise, we essentially create the host location as a location in our system so that when those emails and those reminders go out to the families, they also have the location that they're going to, not adaptive movements. We're treating it essentially like a new location. How that works in other states, the therapist would have to be licensed in that state. So currently, I think it's Colorado, Arizona, California, Alabama. She ended up getting licensed in Alabama because we were going to do a pop-up out there and then it fell through. So there are additional costs when it's out of state. So we need a little bit more lead time. Usually a couple months is the licensing process, but usually it's pretty quick and easy. But you can always ask. And that's one of the reasons that we're expanding and doing more Abilities Expo is Denise can, travel a few times a year to reach some of these communities that don't have easy access to intensives or, all the equipment, all the things that we offer. So you've got options.